So this is the build guide for the Fireball Sorcerer, right? And I did add a leveling, two leveling builds, 1 through 50 and 75 plus. 1 through 50, this is not the most optimal build you can run. This is just the build that I used. I had fun doing it. I usually try to stay away from leveling with the build that I'm gonna have in the end game. That way I don't get burnt out. So I did use Firewall to level. All these aspects that you see here, you can get all these from the codex. So that's just what I went with here. And then this 75 plus, right? You can do this before 75, but I got really lucky and I got the Coronet helmet and the gloves of the Illuminator to drop really, really early. If you're able to get these to drop, I'd recommend trying out this build because this is what I use to farm to get the uniques to eventually build into this build. But like I said, I don't usually do leveling builds. I try my best here. Probably just better to follow someone else's advice for leveling builds. I'm not good at leveling builds, but let's just go over the T100 build, right? For the two builds here, we have a Fireball build and a Fireball Meteor build. I did try making a Meteor build. I didn't really have fun using it. It just felt like it was taking too long and it felt like it was too slow. The only reason why I even used it for this leveling build is because, you know, with the Prodigy aspect, you get mana for using a cooldown, and having the Corona helmet gives Meteor a second cooldown. So it just helped me with mana. That's the only reason why I even used Meteor at all. Me personally, I don't have fun using it, but I did make it just in case somebody wanted to try a Fireball Meteor. It's not that it's a bad build. It's just that for me personally, the Meteors they're just too slow, and it just feels like they don't do anything. But hey, you're welcome to try out this build. Not sure if it's the best. So for the Fireball build, this is the build I'm currently using. I was able to complete all the endgame activities with this build. The reason why I chose Godslayer's Crown here is because of that pulling effect. Being able to group enemies up, it just makes clearing out dungeons and just clearing out content really easy. And on top of that, Fireball is not necessarily the strongest at single target, and at least this helps when we're going against bosses, right? When you're going against a bunch of enemies, it's very, very easy. Single target, it lacks a little bit, so this kind of helps out with that. So on the chest piece, you're going to want damage reduction from distant, damage reduction from burning, total armor, and on this last affix, you can either get reduction from close or just flat damage reduction. I did add disobedience to this planner. I personally don't use disobedience. The reason why I added it is because if we look over here at this armor value, we get 9,500 armor with the way the current build is set up. So most people probably would prefer disobedience. I use the Snow Veiled aspect, which is the aspect that makes ice armor make you go unstoppable. And the reason why I have that there is because now we have 3 buttons that we can utilize to Boltwell Whip. I don't think you need disobedience because most things will be CC'd anyway and they won't be able to move, and they'll die most likely before they can attack you, but you might feel more comfortable using disobedience. This is just a preference choice right here. The gloves, we're going to use gloves of the Illuminator. This is to buff our fireball. For the pants, you're going to want Tabalt's Will. This is so that we get that damage bonus as well as getting our resource every time we go unstoppable. For the boots, you're going to want Esu's Heirloom. That way we get the extra crit chance. For the wand, you're going to want Core Skill, damage to burning enemies, all stats, and intelligence. And the aspect you're going to use here is the Conceited aspect. On the amulet, you're going to want movement speed, total armor, mana cost reduction, and ranks to Devour and Blaze. The aspect you'll be using is the aspect of the 3 curses. On the ring, you're going to want maximum life, lucky hit chance, crit strike chance, and cold damage. The reason why we're going with cold damage on the ring is because on the Frigid Fate board, we want to get the legendary node as close to the maximum bonus of 30%. As it stands right now, we can only get 25%. But if you move these points away from here, this is damage reduction from elites and armor. If you remove this, you can slot it over here, and then you'll be able to get your 30%. Me personally, I rather have the damage reduction because we have such low armor. So that would be a choice up to you. The aspect that we're using on the ring is the Ancient Flame aspect. This is where we're going to get our attack speed from. Second ring we're using is Taurashus. And on the totem, we're using the Stormswell aspect. The perks you're going to want are crit chance, lucky hit chance, mana cost reduction, and resource generation. We're going with Firebolt because this is our first enchant. The reason being, Fireball does not burn anything, so we need something that can do burning damage. You can use the Construct, but sometimes the Construct kind of lags behind, so I don't really want to be dependent on the Construct applying my burning damage, so I went with Firebolt here. Next, we're going to go Fireball, Enhanced Fireball, Greater Fireball. Then we're going with Frozen Orb, Enhanced Frozen Orb, Greater Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb is our second enchant. This is where we're going to get our cold damage from to benefit from Tarashas, and this also applies vulnerable as well. Put 1 point into Flame Shield, 1 point into Elemental Attunement, 3 points into Glass Cannon. We're going to go Teleport, Enhanced Teleport, Shimmering Teleport, Ice Armor, Enhanced Ice Armor, 3 ranks into Precision Magic, Align the Elements, 3 points into Mana Shield, 3 points into Protection, Lightning Spear, Enhanced Lightning Spear, Invoked Lightning Spear. The reason why we're going with Lightning Spear here is because not only does it provide a stun, it actually buff Lightning Spear, and now Lightning Spear also applies vulnerable when it crits for 3 seconds. So this is great, great way to apply vulnerable. Then we're going 3 points into Inner Flames, 6 points into Devouring Blaze. We get the extra 3 from the amulet. 3 points into Crippling Flames. You're going to go 1 point into Permafrost, 1 point into Hoarfrost, and 3 points into Frigid Breeze. Because we're utilizing Frozen Orb as our enchantment, the damage we get, the cold damage that we get from this, we can utilize Frigid Breeze. Then we're going with Inferno. This is our second way of pulling and grouping enemies together. This is our ultimate. Then you're going to go Prime Inferno, Supreme Inferno, 3 points into Fiery Surge so we get the mana regen, 1 point into Soulfire just so we can come over here to Warmth. The reason why we have Warmth here is because this is a way for us to get healing without having to rely on potions to heal. 0.3% may not sound like a lot, but when everything around you is burning, and they constantly are healing you until they die, this is actually really nice to get us topped off without having to rely on potions. And for the key passive, we're using Esu's Ferocity. This is just giving us bonus crit damage and a little bit of crit chance. And now going over the Paragon board, we're starting with the Tactician. This is giving us 10 times increased damage for 4 seconds after casting a defensive skill. So this pretty much has a 100% uptime. The next board we're moving up to is the Enchantment Master, and we're using the Elementalist Glyph. This is giving us bonus damage whenever we use Fire, Cold, or Lightning, which we can easily do. Then we're moving over to the Searing Heat board, and we're using the Reinforced Glyph. Now, if you're someone that prefers to use Disobedience and not Snowveiled, you can actually remove this if you want. I don't think you would need this if you use Disobedience. And what you can actually do is you can actually slot in Pyromaniac if you want to do more damage. And this, you wouldn't have to change anything to the board because they both take willpower. So that's just a heads up there. On the Searing Heat board, we're going to make sure that we grab the Searing Heat legendary node. Then we're going to move up to Burning Instincts, and we're going to use the Unleash Glyph. This gives us bonus damage, and it also gives us mana regen. Then we're moving over to the Frigid Fate board, and we're using Flame Feeder. This is giving us 10 times increased damage, direct damage to burning enemies. And we're making sure we pick up the Frigid Fate legendary node. And on our 6th board, we're using Icefall, and we're going with the Destruction Glyph. This is just giving us increased damage anytime we crit. And so the way you play this build is very simple. Whenever you see a group of enemies, you're going to invade towards the enemies. That way you're getting this crit strike chance increase. Then from there, you're going to make sure you pop Ice Armor or Flame Shield, whichever one you have up. That way you're getting your barrier, and you're also getting your Tibalt's Will buff. And from there, you're just spamming Fireball. It's very simple. Godslayer's Crown will group up enemies once every 12 seconds. And in between that downtime, if there's a bunch of elites and you need to kill them, you also can use Inferno. And also, if your 3 skills that give you Unstoppable, which also give you Resource, if all 3 of these are on cooldown, also you can utilize Inferno because the 3rd perk of Inferno, your Pyromancy skills cost no mana, right? So you can use this as a buffer until you're able to get one of these 3 things up to get some of your mana back. And so typically whenever I do vaults, I make sure I get 3 stacks of the buff. That way, I don't really have to focus on traps. I can just ignore them. And you still come out with a profit on the Pearls of Warding. Once you get to the back room, you just find a corner or up against the wall where there are no traps that can hit you, and you literally just spam Fireball, making sure you're using Ice Armor, Flame Shield, and Teleport when appropriate to get that mana back in between downtimes when the monsters are spawning. Lastly, I'm just going to quickly go over the construct. So just like on the Druid build that I posted, the two construct abilities I use is Flash of Adrenaline and Tempest. The tuning orbs that I've been using for these, for Tempest, I've been using Arsing support just so that it can chain to more enemies, resource support for the extra resource, and breaking support just for the additional vulnerable. For Flash of Adrenaline, I'm using duration support, tactical support, and fortify. Now, with that being said, if you're able to get the rare stones here, I would put Genesis here. That way, this becomes a 50 times multi, and I would get rid of probably breaking support. If you feel like you don't need resources, get rid of resources, but I would probably just get rid of breaking support because we can do without the vulnerable. We're fine on vulnerable, and then I would put Evernight here. And that's if you're willing to grind for these. I'm probably not going to do it, but if you are, you have those two options. The way you do this Lilith fight is very simple. You're going to want to dash, then you're going to pop Lightning Spear, and then you're going to use one of your unstoppable moves, and then you're going to spam Fireball. And you're going to repeat that process when she drops down. Now, they have changed her mechanics, and so on the first phase, you will have to do one set of waves. Just make sure you save your Flame Shield, that way if you're not good at dodging the waves. On the second phase, it doesn't matter how much damage you do anymore, you will have to avoid these blood blisters. As you can see, I got her about 2/3 of her health down, and I still have to dodge the skulls. The best way to do this is just to run on the outside of the map, and you'll just keep doing this until you eventually kill her, right? Now, as you can see here, there's a blood blister in this corner. Instead of going all the way around, you're going to cut right in front of the blister, and then you should be fine. And then you're just going to keep repeating this process. When you want to make sure that you remember that she does do the move where she sucks you in. You want to make sure you pop an unstoppable move and be ready for that. On the last platform, you're going to want to make sure you go all the way down. You're going to sit there and you're going to wait for the skulls to come to you, and then you're going to move on the outside. Once you get to right where the platform breaks, wait a second, because as soon as she starts the platform break, the skulls do stop, and then you're going to continue your route going around. After that is pretty much it. Hope this build guide was useful. I tried something different while having gameplay while I explain everything. I hope that was useful. And yeah, now I'm just going to go ahead and work on my druid, and that's all I got. Peace.